right. Thank you, everyone, for visiting us this evening. My name is Debbie Hayes, and you have come to World of Pets podcast. So we want our pets to live a long life, but we want that to be a good life. And we feel here that we have found some products for our pets that will facilitate that. But we're really not here to promote them so much as we are to just learn, discover everything about pets, and to laugh and to cry about stories that we have and that we hear. So one of our sponsors is The Great Discovery, which is a new digital marketplace, and it also has an innovative affiliate program. You can check it out in the link, which is thegreatdiscovery.com/DNHayes. You'll see that at the bottom of my screen. And appreciate you checking it out, and a little bit more about that later. So today we have with us Melissa LaPlante, who is going to talk about the benefit of pets as far as autistic people who are on the spectrum. So, Melissa?
Hi. How are you today, Debbie?
I'm good, thank you. Whoops, what did I do here? There we go. All right, I'm good, Melissa.
The joys of technical difficulties.
That's true. If it can go wrong, it'll go wrong with me. Just let me introduce Kurt.
Yeah.
Kurt is here representing the World of Ability Podcast Network, which is also one of our sponsors, and Emily will mention them at the close of the program. So, Melissa, go ahead, and I explained to you that I usually, if I have questions, I just go like this, or if you stop to take a breath, I'll go, okay. So we keep it pretty open here, and we just want to get information that you have to share. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to be a guest on your podcast because, I am neurodivergent, and neurodivergent, let me clarify that means autistic, ADHD. It also covers OCD and trauma survivors. A lot of people don't realize that complex PTSD and trauma survivors, their brains are rewired to mirror that neurodivergent. So I'm a self-empowerment coach, and I am also every one of those categories. And so I work with the neurodivergent community, and over the years, working with people on the spectrum or ADHD or even trauma survivors, I have really come to see how important, and also in my own life, animals really are to the healing process, to the everyday sensory regulation process. There's so much that our pets give to us. And so, I wanted to give back to our pets and just, come on this podcast and just kind of educate people out there a little bit about, the amazing ways that animals can really help neurodivergence.
Okay. And I already have a question. Before we get into talking too much about pets, what challenges do you find that in helping, I should say challenges or benefits, do you find in helping people? You said that you are in every one of those categories. So what is the benefit, do you think, and is there a disadvantage?
I don't think there's a disadvantage at all. But what, my why is very deeply rooted in having overcome all of those challenges without even realizing it. I'm 42. I wasn't diagnosed as autistic until age 30. Women often go undiagnosed. I talk to people every day that we know our own. Once you know you're autistic and you know what the symptoms are, symptoms is such a crappy word in my opinion, but you know what the characteristics are, right? You can easily spot that. Just like when you, it's like when you buy a new car, and you are driving a blue Toyota, and now everybody on the road's driving a blue Toyota, but you didn't notice it before. So it's not, you know, it's kind of the same with realizing you're on the spectrum and realizing all the things that you do and learning from each other about different traits and whatnot. And so, at the time though that I became a life coach, that I developed my system, I had no clue that I had what the label was for all my challenges. I just knew I had to push past them. And I used my own, you know, internal gifts along with, you know, education from life coaching and the School of Hard Knocks. and I built a really successful program that really helps. It can help anyone. And my biggest dream is, and the reason that I focus on purpose-driven lives and businesses is that, you know, my company is the Self-Awareness Project, LLC. So that's CELLF. And that is because we are each a cell in the greater organism. We are each vibrating at a specific frequency. It's just physics. It's not woo-woo stuff. It's literally just Einstein physics. We're all vibrating, right? And as a result, we're creating a frequency, and that frequency comes from our thoughts and our actions. And so every day, people, every type of person, but especially neurodivergent people, are walking into jobs and careers and places in their life where they're masking and they're not honoring themselves, and they don't even really know who they are because they're pretending to be someone for everyone, right? And not that they're being fake, but they're being the version of themselves they feel is presentable, right? And so that's exhausting, and it causes burnout. And I went through that pretty severely. I almost got hospitalized, and I was really sick. And, you know, and I've been through everything a person can possibly go through. But I kept using my same principles and my same ideas, and I just kept achieving goal after goal. And, you know, and then I realized in retrospect how I did that. And then I needed to give it to the world. Right. And so, you know, what I really want to do is tell everyone when I share that purpose with the world, all the world's needs are met. Right. Everybody's trying to jump in from the top down and dismantle the larger discord systems. Right. But you can't do that. You have to start with the individual. And so that's what I hope to do, is help launch as many purpose-driven businesses and lives as possible, and then group those talented individuals and businesses that I help facilitate on global projects for humanity. Some of those projects will most likely have to do with service animals, because that's a super necessary need for so many people, not just neurodivergent people, so many people. My ex-husband was a war vet, you know, you know, there's physical disabilities it can help with, like, you know, so I just, you know, follow my purpose in every channel. So in this channel, it's, you know, about what pets can do for us.
Yeah. So let's get into that a little bit more thoroughly.
Yeah. I think that, did you have a question?
I was thinking about, you're talking about the importance of pets for this population and many other populations, obviously.
Yeah.
Do you recommend to everyone that they at least consider looking for a service animal? I mean, all of your clients, or do you have distinctions?
You know, I think that really depends on the individual client and their needs. Like, I don't have any service animals, but my pets are very important to my, you know, balance in my life, right? So they don't necessarily serve any purpose of, you know, assisting me in daily activities. But if I'm having a meltdown, an autistic meltdown, I know that I can grab my 60-pound dog like a big bear and bury my face in her fur and just cry, and she won't move, and she won't judge, and she won't, you know, she'll lick my face to death, and that's about it. You know, when I'm having a panic attack, I know I can grab my hairless cat Bean. sorry, she's 9 pounds. She's 11 years old. And I met her and the sensory of her. Have you ever had a Sphynx cat? Do you know what they feel like?
I'm sorry, you cut out
Uh-oh.
for a little bit. Can you
I'm sorry.
repeat
I
that
said,
last thought?
yeah, I said, have you ever pet a Sphynx cat? Do you know what they feel like?
No, I don't think I do.
Okay. Well, I didn't at first. And I thought that they would, if you pet a naked cat, it's going to feel like petting skin. It really freaked me out. No, they feel like a warm peach, like peach fuzz.
Okay.
Sensory feeling ever. So when I'm having a panic attack, which happens often, I've done all the healing work that I need to do. Who's ever done that? But I mean, to the point where I am, where everything is good and I'm solid and I follow my principles and practices, but we're all still human. We all still experience, emotions, and my panic attacks come from too much sensory. So, having my cat can, petting her and focusing on what she feels like, or if she starts, licking me or anything like that, that sensory can help me focus and calm down from a panic attack. Like, a lot of something that's not talked about enough and is very sad is a lot of the neurodivergent community is isolated because they don't exactly know how to, or they have, debilitating social anxiety. So sometimes, having their pets is the only convenience they do have. And I know people like that personally in my life, and they're happy. They're not, but that's who their people are, right? They're animals. So there's an emotional support facet to it. There is a sensory pleasing facet to it. There is a calming factor. There's also, the nice thing that you don't have to mask or hide who you are in front of your pet. You don't have to, not stim or, not do your quirky traits, whatever it may be, because your pets don't care. All they care is, are they getting pets? Are they getting taken to the dog park if they're dogs? Are they all getting treats? Like they don't care if, you are, in a bad mood or you don't feel like being conversational. You know what I mean? Like, okay, I'll backtrack that. My cat cares. She's very conversational. But you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
there's a comfort in having an animal that is your companion that, you don't have to maintain a social construct with, you just give love and receive love. And, that's all there is to it. And it's a beautiful thing to have as a person who has to try very hard in every social situation and then still never really get it.
Okay.
So,
yeah. Kurt, did you have any questions for Melissa at this point?
Well, I guess, Melissa, can you give us a little bit more insight in terms of like a day in the life of your journey here? In terms of when I look at your website, I see you're public speaker, you've got all your programs here, and Debbie told me that there's something in with the world of pets here about with the service animals and so forth, the importance. Like, how does all this work we're hearing about culminate into the days you want to live each day, today, tomorrow, and going forward? How have you constructed kind of an ideal life for yourself and find that you're helping another person the way that you like to and love to?
Absolutely. I'm already doing that and it makes me so happy, right? I like I said, the background that I've come from, and I won't go into very detailed specifics, but just to give you an idea of where I've come to where I am. I grew up in probably the most dangerous neighborhood in the United States. And I was raised by a single mom who was severely mentally ill and addicted to drugs and violent and abusive. And I moved to Los Angeles by myself when I was 17 because I said, I'm just done, living on anyone else's terms by anyone else's rules. And that's when I started my journey from, just healing through all of the things that I'd been through, learning all the skills that I've accumulated that I now learn, that I use in my everyday life. I spent a long period of time with a lot of, the name of my book and podcast and, all my everything, my brand is the fearlessness frequency, manifesting success, because, I was afraid of everything. Right. And so I had to face those fears. And then, I developed between my passion of physics, because everything in my principle is built around the laws of physics. You can argue with anything and anyone except that. Go ahead and try to defy gravity. Go ahead. It doesn't work. As a woman over 40, I promise it doesn't work. And so, coupled with the laws of physics and the realization that we can tune our own frequencies to be, when we're authentic. My biggest win is anyone I meet understanding that, they don't actually have to do the things that have always been done just because they're the things that have always been done. I want to be able to, have everybody be able to locate what I call their cellular purpose, the thing that we're meant to give, because as if we're each vibrating energy, then we're all a larger collective organism of that vibrating energy. We all affect each other, right? And if we're not serving our cellular purpose, we are a cancerous cell, and we are contributing to the larger tumors that are in society. So my goal is to just help retune to as many of the notes in the symphony to their right note, so the song plays correctly. Right. And, something I say, and I normally sing it, but I won't do it for the sake of your podcast. But in my keynote speech, I actually do sing this line. Some are like water, some are like the heat, some are the melody, and some are the beat. But each and every one of us has a note to play in the greater symphony. And, so my cellular purpose is waking up as many cells as possible. I focus on neurodivergence right now because I recently went through severe career burnout, even while following my purpose, because I didn't set boundaries for myself and I wasn't living in my authentic truth in many ways, due to trauma and just, the things that have been placed on us as neurodivergence of how we're supposed to act. Forget neurodiversity, how as a society we're supposed to act. And I talk a lot about that on my podcast. Yes, ma'am.
So, you mentioned your childhood, and I'm sorry about that.
No, don't be. It made me.
Okay, that's great. Did you have pets when you were growing up? And if so, how do you feel that they affected you positively, or would have affected you positively if you would have had them?
This pet that I'm about to talk about is the number one reason my heart wanted to do your show, because remembering him and how important he was to me and what he did for me, I wanted to kind of do, honor him in some way. Right. And so when I was younger, it was a really scary and traumatic environment. And I didn't have any friends or siblings. It was just me and my mom, and we moved like every 6 months. All I had was my cat. And my cat Snow was my whole world. He was my playmate. Like we would, he was the craziest cat. He would run behind the chair and hide, baiting you into looking over the arm of the chair so that he could then leap onto your face. And then I would, of course, scream and run down the hall and he would chase after me. But then when I'd get to the end of the hall and he'd corner me, I'd chase him back. We would do this for hours. He played fetch. And the most important thing is that when I was crying, I've never had another cat that would do this. When I was crying, I could lay my whole head weight on him and just bury my face and cry. And he would just lick my face and lick my face and lick my face. I had a really hard time waking up in the morning for school. He knew what time my alarm went off. He started licking my face as soon as my alarm was about to go off. I wouldn't get my extra 2 minutes till the alarm because that 2 minutes was spent being licked. But you know, it was so important. You know, and he was very conversational, like my current cat. So he's who I talk to. He's who I confided in. And, you know, when you don't have adults you can trust or friends you can confide in, you have a cat, you know, sometimes you have a dog. Later in life, I had an amazing dog. He was, half Saint Bernard and half chocolate lab. He was like 180 pounds. He was huge.
He would have been big.
Yeah, he was, and I was like 6 years old. So he was freaking ginormous. Okay. But we lived in such a dangerous area. He was actually trained to sleep over the top of me at night, and protect me because my bedroom was downstairs near the front door and my mom's room was upstairs in the house.
Wow.
And so, but every morning I'd wake up and have to yell, "Mom, call the dog," because he was trained not to get up till she said so. But I had to go to the bathroom and I wanted to get up and I couldn't push him off. I'm like all of 40 pounds soaking wet. So, you know, and so, you know, but he protected me and he was my friend. And again, my playmate. Growing up very alone and moving all the time, not having friends because I was neurodivergent and also because we moved all the time. You know, animals were always my pets and my friends. And even currently, I'm constantly working, right? I travel, I speak, I network, I coach. I'm constantly like peopling, but I don't do a lot of socializing. I'm still very much an autistic adult. So my social life is my pets. On my downtime, I'm taking my dogs to the dog park or I'm hanging out watching a show with my cat. They don't all hang out in the same room for very quite obvious reasons, but especially because my large dog is a German wired-haired pointer American bully mix. She's 60 pounds. And my little dog is, he gets along with the cat okay, but he's a miniature border collie Australian Shepherd. I had sent Emily pictures actually of the three of us together, a couple of shots, so you guys can see that whenever she shows you. But I really enjoyed that photo session. I was very surprised my dogs actually managed to sit still for any type of photo, let alone one as cute as the ones we got.
You can wait. You don't have to go out right this minute.
He might. How do you know? No, I'm just kidding. My two are actually out of my office right now because right before I logged into the podcast, they decided to play on the guest bed behind me and create all kinds of ruckus. And I'm like, no, we're going to go out and get some treats. And I say treats because they don't know that word. So if I said COOKIES, there would be commotion right now. Oh, I see my babies on the screen. So the big one is, yes, the big one is Ember. And like I said, she's the German wired-haired bully. And then the little one is Casanova. And he is the Australian Shepherd Border Collie. He will never get bigger than that. That's his full size.
Wow.
So
They're beautiful.
thank you.
And
They're my sweet babies.
I think that's wonderful, but I go back to the story that you told about the 160-pound dog.
Ooh, Lordy.
Growing up. I mean, that in the situation that you were in, that must have given you a great deal of comfort and security to know that you were protected, especially at night. I mean,
Oh yeah.
suppose in those days you wouldn't think as much about drive-by shootings, maybe? I don't
Oh,
know.
I directly experienced two as a child. So yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually was very lucky in one of the two that when I heard the first shot, I rolled out of my bed and under my bed to be safe. And the second shot came through my window and hit the wall right where I was laying. So I would have been dead if I didn't act on instinct so quickly. And guess what? My cat climbed under the bed with me and slept with me under the bed. You
And in
know,
that case,
and
it was good that you did not have the huge dog covering you up.
no, it was that was a different house. And that dog belonged to a gentleman that my mom was seeing for a few years. And so we lived with him but that dog became my dog and everyone knew it. He would walk me around the neighborhood, and let's face it, I was not walking him. You know, and he just stayed with me everywhere. And I'll never forget, I always tell this story, and it's innocent and funny, but also I look back at it and think what a terrible child I was. But I was outside playing with him. His name was Loner because he had these big, sad, you know, St. Bernard eyes, right? And so he always looked like he was lonely, even though he was no such thing. He had me 24/7. But, you know, so Loner and I were outside, and there was this little girl in the neighborhood, and she always would try to bully me. And my mom had brought me a bag of peppermint candies from, you know, a Sonic restaurant, right? And I loved those things as a kid. So I'm walking around with my dog and my candy, and I'm all happy. And the girl comes up and snatches my candy. And I was like, now the thing about Loner was he was an attack dog. He was trained on a command. And I would never ever have ever put him on a person. But I took my own doll that was in my hand and I said, you either give me back my candy and I dropped my doll and sicked the dog on it. He tore it to pieces. She started screaming, dropped my candy and ran. And it was the funniest thing in the world to me. And then like an hour or two later, she brought her mom back with her. Mom, that's the girl and her dog. And the mom took one look at the dog and went like, no, you just stay away from this house. And and it was like the ultimate protection from a bully, because he would never have hurt a person unless commanded, and I would never have commanded him to do such a thing. But I wanted her to know that he was capable, and I wanted my candy back. So he was such a great dog. He really was.
We've got a pretty good idea of how the dogs comforted you. So can you go in a little bit to what you and I had talked about beforehand about other types like
support needs,
things that your daughter would need? And guess what? He is telling me that he needs to go out. So go ahead and I'll be back very soon.
Okay, I understand. His needs come first. So yes, you know, there is a high need for support animals in the neurodivergent and also the disability community. You know, my daughter struggles with a lot of challenging behaviors and things that, you know, she feels could be curbed by having a support dog, such as, you know, one autistic thing that, you know, some on the spectrum struggle with is, you know, skin picking, tearing, biting your nails so short they bleed, and that kind of thing. And it's a sensory thing. And so, you know, my daughter would desire a service dog that would kind of like push her hands away from her mouth when it catches her doing that behavior, or might, you know, give some kind of like barking reminder or nudge reminder for tasks, you know. Also, my daughter suffers from what's called selective mutism. So while there are nonverbal autistics, there are also a certain percentage of autistic people who deal with selective mutism. And what that means is when they are put in a socially stressful or just stressful, heightened stressful situation, something shuts off in their brain that discontinues allowing them to verbally communicate. And it's not that, you know, they don't want to tell you what's going on. They literally, the brain to mouth communication is, you know, taking a break. It's not happening. And so having a service dog that can help communicate needs, or, find out things, like to recognize what a bathroom sign looks like and help find the bathroom and come back and guide her, and so that because she can't necessarily ask a person, right? If she's feeling so stressed out by the situation, but the dog could possibly be trained to locate a bathroom in a building for her, so there's a lot of ways that, people with neurodiversities could, and disabled people, of course, could benefit from a service dog. Definitely.
Excellent. So, Melissa, I served as an EMT for 10 years. And so when you're sharing this part of life and the role of a service dog, comfort animals and so forth, I think of the emergency situation, like growing up when I was a kid, they always said, well, if you have a fire, unfortunately, you have to make sure, pretty much they're telling you, make sure the other humans, are out of the building. Like, you might lose your animal. You're not going to go searching in a burning building.
I would.
Yeah, I know. But again, this is the messaging I got when I was growing up.
Of course, me too.
What's that?
I said, of course, me too.
Yeah. Okay. So, but what are your thoughts that way in terms of, with the service animal, like, is there something to rely on with a service animal in an emergency, like a fire, tornado, or, other very stressful situations like that?
Yeah, I mean, well, panic, that's not the word I meant to say. It was, but it wasn't the first word I meant to say. Dogs can be trained to sense many chemical changes in the body. They can predict panic attacks. They can predict blood sugar being low. The thing about being neurodiverse is it comes with a lot of comorbidities. So there are many neurodiverse individuals who suffer from autoimmune disease.
Oh dear.
There you go. I'm sure she'll figure something out. So,
There you go. We lost you for a second.
I saw that. I'm sorry. So where exactly verbally did you lose me? What was I last saying when you lost me?
I'm not
No?
sure.
That's okay. I can start over. No problem. So, so what I was saying. What?
It's about the comorbidities.
Yeah, no. Oh, yeah, no. I just wasn't sure where you guys left off hearing me. But yes, so many neurodivergent people suffer from comorbidities. In fact, I would say all of them in some form or another. So there's conditions like panic disorder and Ehlers-Danlos and different medical conditions that are very commonly occurring in autistic individuals. As a scientist, I feel like it has a lot to do with how over processing happens in our nervous system. And so it creates, maladaptive behaviors in the body, right? So dogs can be trained to sense different chemical shifts in the body. They might be able to understand that you're about to have a panic attack because they can detect the heightened levels of cortisol and adrenaline in your system. They can smell it, right? So they can be trained to actually perform a certain set of tasks, predetermined, that are going to help that person with the panic attack. Like, for instance, besides, petting my cat, a huge thing for me is to get something sensory provoking to eat. So like cold grapes, because there's like 5 different sensory situations happening there, right? It's like squishy and juicy and crunchy and all the things. And it helps me focus my senses in a way that calms my panic. But when anyone who's ever experienced a panic attack knows, the first thing that happens, the first symptom is that you start to feel very weak and you are very shaky and you are not able to necessarily make it down. I live on a 2-story home. So making it down the stairs, holding the rail, sometimes I actually have to have my dog help me. She's not even a service dog, but she knows that when I'm shaky and I'm about to go into full panic attack mode, I need to get to something from the fridge to help kind of focus my mouth, focus my sensory. That's a personal technique, you know. And I'll hold her collar and she will guide me down the stairs, you know. But you know, a service dog could be trained to just go open the fridge and grab, you know, a predetermined bag of grapes and bring it, right? And because it's dangerous when I walk down the stairs shaky and weak and not not focused, I could fall down the stairs and break my neck, right? And that's something as simple as a panic attack, which every neurodivergent person experiences. And some of us who have panic disorder, like myself, experience it weekly, sometimes daily, sometimes multiple times a day. Depends on the amount of stress. You know, the other thing that is extremely beneficial for, you know, some people on the spectrum is a lot of people on the spectrum have an issue with, you know, grocery shopping because the store is so much sensory overload. I hate grocery shopping. Like these days, you know, you have Instacart and all that, but you know, there are people like me who live in rural areas where that doesn't exist. I don't have DoorDash here. I don't have Instacart here. I can't get any of that. I got to drive 20 minutes to the closest grocery store and I got to mentally prepare myself. It's a whole day. And so, but when you walk in, there's extremely bright lights. There's music playing on top of ads that are playing, on top of people that are talking, on top of cash registers that are going, on top of machines that are running to run the water and cooling for the food. And I mean, and as a neurodivergent person, you can't lower the level of any of these sounds, and it can be very panic inducing. Now, I have worked through a lot of those feelings and I've learned coping skills and whatnot, but there are some people who struggle with that. It's called a spectrum because it's not that some of us are kind of autistic or really autistic. It's that we're all really autistic and here's the parts that specifically affect us, right? So it's more like a circle graph and these are the different traits. And I might have a huge struggle with this trait while not so much of a huge struggle with this trait, right? So someone on the spectrum, someone who's neurodivergent, who really struggles with going to the grocery store, who it's physically debilitating for them to experience that much sensory and that much overload and they just can't do it. Service animal is amazing, right? They can take that animal in, they can, you know, train that animal on certain list items, right? Help me find the Campbell's soup, right? Dogs can learn to read. I've seen it done. The coolest thing that I love is I see videos of the dogs hitting the buttons and talking with the buttons because they've learned what the buttons say.
Yep.
Okay. And
Yep.
I watched a dog the other day was getting treats for identifying the right number on the right piece of paper with their paw, and they were doing it. So, you know, and it's great because dogs are intelligent. So you could definitely train a dog to not only assist you emotionally in the store, but help you knock out your list in a way that gets you in and out quickly so you are done experiencing that nightmare as soon as possible. You know, and plus, as an autistic person, it's sometimes really difficult to be in situations where forced social events happen. And what I mean is that I'm pleasant and I talk to anyone who I'm near in a public area, but that doesn't mean that it's less exhausting for me to do that. It's just that it's something that I enjoy, you know, but I know that, you know, it's going to be overwhelming. There are some people though, that if another person approaches them and starts talking to them, it's so invasive to their whole process. It's thrown off everything. A lot of times when you have a service animal, people don't push into your personal space or expect things from you conversationally. You know, it gives you kind of a bubble to be in, to be safe, right? They might want to pet your dog, you know. I'm you know, and I used to have my daughter used to have a service dog. She passed away. And so, but when she had her vest on, you know, people were always very kind to say, you know, oh, can I pet her? And I would say, no, she's working, you know, or sometimes depending on what task my daughter was trying to accomplish, I might say, no, yeah, that's fine. Sometimes I would just have her with me and she wasn't my service dog. I just was taking her for grooming or whatever. So yeah, you can pet her. She just has her vest on because she's, you know, needs to stay used to that, you know, so, but Yeah, it's pivotal. It's pivotal to have those tools, and what makes it great in an animal form is you never feel like a burden to your animal. You don't feel like you aren't good enough when you have to ask your animal for help, and you don't think your animal thinks that about you. You don't have to have all these extra thoughts outside of meeting your own needs, because that's exactly what they're there to do. You know, and so I think it's a very good thing that could help a lot more neurodivergent individuals be more independent, for those who aren't low support needs. And to be honest, low support needs is a myth, because while I'm low support needs in the manner of, I have a company, I am a coach, I'm a speaker, I do all these things. Ask me if my house is clean, I don't want to talk about it. So, you know, like, we all have our struggles. My ADHD struggles are insane sometimes, and so, it's at the end of the day, there is really no such thing as low support needs. There's just low societal support needs, I think, is what the term should be, truly. But I'm a literalist.
I think that animals, at least the way I would relate, is that the animals are really happy to be helping us.
Oh God, yes. Absolutely.
So you definitely would not need to feel apologetic that you need their help. I mean, I just think that's most of them. I mean, that's not going to be 100% of animals, but
no.
That's the way they are. So
yeah,
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to agree with you. Nothing makes a dog happier than making you happy. Nothing.
Right.
Cats, on the other hand, maybe not. But they want to know you love them. They want your affection on their terms, certainly. And but like, and for instance, like my German wired hair, the breed German wired hair pointers, they're hunting dogs, and they're extremely smart, and they were bred to have a job. That was their purpose. They had a job, and they needed to do that job. And so if they didn't have some kind of job or purpose, they, just kind of felt depressed. And, and so I actually got Casanova for Ember. So the Ember's job was Ember's job was taking care of Casanova, because, I don't have any tasks that, I need her to do all the time, but Nova needs constant supervision and care and support because he's a puppy. So, and that really made her whole world, just making sure, like, she will eat all her food, and I will go down and see his bowl isn't touched. She doesn't eat his food. She makes sure he eats. Like, I don't have to tell her, no, don't eat your brother's food. Like, what pit bull do you know isn't eating everything in sight? Mine. Because, she cares about her puppy, and she has no maternal instinct. She's definitely an older sister bully, pun intended, but she takes care of him, and she feels needed, and it's important for her breed.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think, gosh, we want to wrap up here, but we've gotten a great deal of insight into both from what would be good from your point of view and from your daughters or somebody who has some more severe problems point of view.
Right.
So I appreciate you coming on. And did you have a final thought?
No, I mean, I just, my final thought would just be that I appreciate getting to have been a guest on your program and having the platform to just talk about some things that are important to me, while also talking about things that are important to you. So both of us, really. But yeah, so thank you. And, I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Kurt, did you have a last word?
Well, I guess if I can, I just want to give one last thing for you to respond to, Melissa. We we
Yeah.
heard a lot about service animals and so forth. So you definitely have a passion to speak to this. And Debbie gave me the idea that that there's some things that people can get help considering, like people maybe give up on the process getting a service animal and things like that. And maybe there's the economic side and there's ways to get help in this area. So can you just speak to that a little bit in terms of how having an animal, like you're saying, is more doable?
You know, I can't personally speak to that because I'm still kind of struggling with that with my daughter, trying to find an organization that can help her with that. What I would like to speak to on it is that it's an opportunity out there for somebody who isn't doing this as their purpose. You know, as a purpose-driven coach, as somebody who wants to see purpose-driven businesses happen, I can't imagine a more necessary purpose-driven business to start than service animals specifically for the neurodivergent community. And you know, trained on comorbidities, right? And so I hope to see that happen in my future. Possibly I will, you know, I'm a big believer in manifestation. That's why my podcast is the Fearlessness Frequency Manifesting Success, right? And Einstein said that everything is energy. That's all there is to it. So match the frequency of the reality you wish to achieve, and you cannot help but achieve that reality. It is not philosophy, it is physics. And so I will go ahead and just speak it into the universe that I will attract this wonderful neurodivergent soul whose passion is to, you know, build that business, to make that happen. And I want to help them build that business and coach them. You know, I have a few different programs, but my two biggest programs is that I have a one-on-one program where I spend 5 months with my client, just helping them discover their purpose, their most authentic self, do the healing work, do the deep shadow work, the not fun work, right? To step into your full power. But my other course is an 18-week course, I guess also additionally 5 months, that teaches you to build and launch your purpose-driven business. So there's business strategy, there's AI. I'm certified in AI. There is, you know, marketing. There is, you know, mindset. There's a lot. So, you know, I hope that one day perhaps I meet the person who can make this more available for the world, and that I get to help them do that. But until then, you know, I just keep working and looking for organizations that will help my daughter, you know, and leave it up to the universe.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you a call and I'll get Anthony's information to you, because as I had told you
Thank
before
you.
we started, he is working on that, because that is one thing that we're passionate about. He and I both happen to be passionate about. So I really appreciate you both coming on. And Emily, could you tell us a little bit about the World of Ability Podcast Network as we close out here?
So the World of Ability Podcast Network started a few years ago, but we have the flagship show called the World of Ability, flagship show of the World of Ability Podcast Network, every Saturday at 11 a.m. Pacific. And I love everybody to join us. However, this week we're also a part of Mutual Aid Summit and doing karaoke during the same time of the show. So everybody's welcome to that as well. But if that's not your thing or you don't want to stay that long, we also will be doing the show as well. So if you want to still join us on the show, but we have other shows as well. So I'd love to, if you want another show and every other projects we're working on. So
very good. All right. Well, thank you for that. And we hope everybody will join us again next Tuesday evening at 6 p.m. Pacific. So, or of course, go to YouTube after and take a look. All right, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.